Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another supplemental episode of Adventuring the Game featuring Guacamelee, where I take a look at some of the differences between Guacamelee's Gold Edition compared to the newer Super Turbo Championship Edition. Today's episode will be fairly short, as there's not too much to go into. Starting off, we're going to go through a bunch of differences between the two versions in Santa Luchita. I want to clarify a couple of things that we saw previously in the Super Turbo Championship Edition that were a little more obvious when they were in the Gold Edition. So first and foremost, showing off El Linko. Yes, he was actually called El Linko in the Gold Edition, so the reference to The Legend of Zelda was much more obvious. He is called El Hero now, so they wanted to kind of make that a little less, I guess, not wanting to use the name. But yeah, that was there. It was previously way too obvious. And then the meme with the two owls, the oh really and the yeah really, you can see here the text was actually there in the Gold Edition, which was taken out in the Super Turbo Championship Edition. I imagine the two images held up on their own otherwise. A couple of meme images for you here. These were posters that were removed eventually. There is the reference to Crazy Wolf with Loco Lobo Tequila. There is a reference to Grumpy Cat with Gato Gruñón cat food. A reference to the Gentleman Spy who smokes way too much. In this case, it is the Caballero Churros, which is Gentleman Churros. I never quite got that meme, but there it is. And a reference to Me Gusta with Me Gusta Guavas. So all of those memes have been referenced and then eventually taken out in the newer version. Now there are some references to other games that are a little more subtle in the background of Santa Luchita. Now these exist in both the Gold and Super Turbo Edition. They are brick cutouts of the old 8-bit Mario and Mega Man sprites. So you can kind of see here with these two images, they're kind of subtle in the background, very easy to miss. In fact, I completely missed them before in the Super Turbo Championship Edition playthrough. I just happened to be watching the video again and noticed, hey, there's a picture of Mega Man back there, and I went back and noticed there was also a Mario, so I wanted to go ahead and grab those for you guys to show them off. And lastly, in Santa Luchita, there is another reference to a meme, and this is the IKEA monkey, a cute little monkey in a coat. Yes, back in 2012, isn't that fun? So beyond the memes, there are a couple sequences that had a little bit of changes. One of them was a side quest that you might have seen in the Super Turbo Championship Edition, where you're supposed to gather ingredients for El Grande Enchilada. She's making a giant enchilada and she needs like tortillas, chilies, and all that. Well, in the Gold Edition, this quest required you to go out and find each individual ingredient one at a time and bring it back to her before she gave you the next ingredient, which is kind of a pain in the butt. Thankfully, in the Super Turbo Championship Edition, they modified this quest so she gives you all the ingredients at once. You can go out and collect all the ingredients. You're still missing one at this point in the game because I believe you need to go to the World of Dead to collect the last one. But at least you know what ingredients there are, and you can get all but one of them turned in at this point in the game. The final sequence is the sequence after you meet Flameface in the bar Hernandos. This entire sequence was changed in Super Turbo because they wanted to add the Canal de las Flores, which doesn't exist in the Gold Edition. So consequently, you get the Frog Slam much earlier in Gold Edition than you do in Super Turbo. And you don't even go into the Canal de las Flores, so you've got an entire area that you don't actually get to visit, which means you're a little bit more powerful by the time you get to the point where I left off in Super Turbo Championship Edition. You have a bit more health, you have a bit more stam, and of course you have El Intenso to increase your power. I kind of like this change because, as even El Chaivo says himself, the Frog Slam is a little more thematically correct when you go into the Canal de las Flores because, you know, it being a canal and being a little bit wet. I mean, getting the Frog Slam underneath Hernandos was, I guess, a little uninspired, but, you know, it was there. And so I think it works out better this way. But you can see the difference in the sequences. And of course, as I mentioned, you don't go to the canal at all. So a lot of the other things like the house at the east end of Santa Luchita doesn't exist because Flameface never breaks your way to there, so you don't have to worry about going around. And this also not only fleshes out the storyline a little bit with the new boss, because he does kind of have his own storyline going on. You get to find out a little bit more about him, but you also get to find out a little bit more about Tostada and who she is. So I really do like those changes. Well, that's pretty much it. Making this one a fairly short Guacamelee supplemental episode 5.5. So hopefully you've enjoyed it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching.